Welcome to the Great Reset Opportunity Report. I'm Chris Blasi. Today we have a guest whose expertise is perfect for what we seek to do here at the Great Reset Report. I'm talking about the most recognized name in the world of trends research. He's the founder and runs the Trends Institute out of Kingston, New York, and is the publisher of the very interesting and dynamic Trends Report. Of course, I'm talking about Gerald Celente. Gerald, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Gerald, it's great to have you on. I mean, the timing and what you do is just so perfect for what we seek to achieve here. And I usually like to start off with this, Gerald. You know, a term like the Great Reset is really being used by a lot of people who consider themselves pundits and analysts. And sometimes everyone's got a different definition of it. So before we kick things off, couple things. I actually think there's a few camps when it comes to the Great Reset. There's those people that think everything is fine, the Fed and the institutions in place are vibrant, are secure, and there is no Great Reset. Then there's those who think things are pretty good, the Fed, the institutions, they're in control, and maybe there's a little risk of a Great Reset. Then you have those who think there will be a Great Reset, it's just down the road. And then the last camp is not only is there a Great Reset, but it's happened, it's already in play. So just to kick things off, what is your opinion on the reality of a Great Reset and how would you describe it?
Well, look around the world and what do they call it? Anti-establishment movements. And that to me is what it's all about. The system's not working at any level. If it was, would we be in the kind of condition that we're in? So you could start, for example, in the United States. Look at the people. Look what's happened to them. Look at the shape of the nation. I'm talking about the average person. Look at the dress, the style, the physical shape, what they eat, what they do, what they watch, what they listen to. It's the bottom, and the bottom keeps getting lower. Again, go around the world. Cinque Stelle, the five-star movement, and Lega League in Italy, the AfD party in Germany, the Freedom Party in Austria. One party, again, whether you like these, don't like them, not the issue. People are tired of the establishment. It's not working. You know, it took the Black Plague, the Great Death of Europe, to bring on a renaissance. Would you look at, depending on whose numbers you look at, I mean, they can't get why we invaded Iraq straight, right? So they're going to tell us what happened, you know, before the Renaissance. The Renaissance followed the Black Plague. They say about 60% of Europe was wiped out. People realized they were doing something wrong. And so at the height of the Renaissance, what did they say when they described the quality of their work? Alle Romana alla Antica, in the manner of the Romans and the ancients, to describe the quality, because the quality had gone down to garbage. So they brought back something that had significance and beauty and elegance and grace. And those are elements that are missing in society today. So it's a breakdown of the entire system. Again, just look at a personal life. When I was a kid, they didn't have dollar stores. People weren't buying dollar food. When you went in to buy something into a store, it didn't look like a large self-storage unit, like going into any of these places called Walmarts or Lowe's or Home Depot or Staples. Oh, Staples, Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart. Remember when there were locally owned stores? And people competed on service and elegance and what they were bringing you in a different way? Not anymore. It's just the bottom line.
Gerald, I just have to say something. This is what I like so much about your approach. All we hear is usually the same data, right? GDP, debt, student loan, default rates. And no one looks at the other markers of deterioration, the cultural things. And that's something you focus on. And it's so important. And I don't know anyone else who really, shares that. But I just have to say, that's what really separates you. And it's so important. If you have a dysfunctional culture and dysfunctional people, you're never going to have a good economy. It doesn't matter about Fed policy and tax policy, right? I mean, what could you do with a culture that doesn't appreciate the important things, right? And understand where value and quality are, things that are lasting. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just, I just had to say that. So, which is
again, I live it. If you look at our place over here, it's filled with artwork and beauty. I write about the ugly stuff going on and talk about it all the time. So beauty is an antidote to fear, and art is the way of finding the true meaning of the human spirit, according to a lot of artists and people that appreciate it. So I think that's what we have to look at. When I was a kid, and you probably remember too, they had the Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus. Yep. It was the greatest show on earth. They went out of business.
That's right.
You don't have to pay step right up to go see the tattooed lady. You could see it walking up and down the street anywhere you go. You don't have to go out and see the fattest man, and they're everywhere. The whole society, you want the greatest. Right now we're living in the greatest freak show on earth. Take a look. Oh, election time is coming up. Don't forget to vote. Don't forget to vote. Get out there and vote. It's your duty to vote. I don't vote for murderers and thieves. I don't vote for Bloods and Crips or Democrats or Republicans with track records of nothing more than one murderous war after another and stealing our dough to give to their friends. What am I, 6 years old? You got to throw this crap on me like I don't know what's going on? And you're telling me I got to go vote for this? So that's where society is. They're locked in a little mindset. If this education system of ours, and I pay ridiculous taxes up here, was worth anything, do you think that we'd have the problems that we have? So at every level, there's societal breakdown. And all the government is a reflection to me of what society has degraded into.
That's another point. Regarding your research, you describe yourself as a political atheist, right? Which is really critical. There are too many people who are presenting themselves as analysts, but really have an agenda, right? They really have a side that they want to make a case for, which is, if you're going to try to be objective and look for opportunity, and, not to boil it down to just financial opportunity, but you need to be objective. So, that's another value that you bring to the table. Something you said a few minutes ago, and maybe you can expand upon, right? So since 2008, we're 10 years after this so-called financial crisis, and, the banks made out great. They were bailed out, and people made obscene amounts of money in that small segment. From a financial perspective, what is the state of the average citizen right now?
Well, everybody knows the data. I mean, there's no middle class has shrunk dramatically. People can't afford between $400 or $1,000 in debt. The 95% of all the wealth created since 2009 has gone to the 1%. I mean, everybody knows the numbers. 3 cats, Bezos, Gates, and Buffett got more dough than 50% of Americans. The Gilded Age, we're way beyond the Gilded Age right now. And this is global. You look at numbers coming out from Oxfam. They're saying that 8 people have more money than half the world's population combined. And every week there's new numbers coming out showing how much more and more the money they've gotten. And it's not as though they're creating beauty and giving it back to society. They brag about, Gates giving, drug money out, people get vaccinated and stuff. There's no Carnegies. You could call Carnegie anything you want. Had a terrible track record in a lot of ways. But there was a thing called a public library system.
Yeah, they still did contribute something, right?
And look at the beautiful buildings that they built. Everything was gorgeous. So they're not giving back anything. This guy Bezos gives back, the kind of dough that these guys have, it's like going out and leaving a big tip.
Yeah. And
I'm not exaggerating. And so what's going on is that they've killed the middle class. I mentioned Staples. when I was a kid, there used to be a thing called stationery stores. Not too long ago, now I'm going back to the late 80s and early 90s. There were things called hardware stores before Home Goods and Home Depot and Lowe's. You know, they had grocery stores. There were laws in place, Chris. The Robinson-Patman Act, the Sherman Antitrust Act, the Clayton Antitrust Act, that prohibited the bigs from owning everything. And those disgusting lowlives that people love, they're Republicans and Democrats, gave it to you really straight, man. And you keep voting for them. And I got to tell you, I'm 15 minutes away from Woodstock over here, the home of the quiche-eating grins and the balsamic smile liberals. How they love their Obama. Obama, B-O-M-B-A, man. The lying SOB, Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner that destroyed Libya, the richest country in Africa, turned it into a hellhole, gave the money to them radical Islamists to then go destroy Syria, where over 600,000 people are dead, destroyed the nation, 5 million refugees, 4 million people displaced. Assad has to go. Gaddafi has to go. I don't want to hear that. Don't say that about Obama. I don't like Trump. That's how ignorant. That's how disgusting. That's how cowardly Americans have become. The Obama that stole all your money and brought in that other clown of a boy, Eric Holder. Hold this, Eric. Yep, the guy that now he works at a white shoe boy law firms down there in Wall Street. This is the guy that they were going to bring in as the lying SOB Obama campaign. Folks, we're going to bring those people to justice that stole all your money. Why you lost your house? Why you lost your pension plan? I'm going to bring them to justice. Didn't bring one cat to jail, man. Just gave them our dough. Don't say anything bad about Obama. I mean, yeah, I hate Trump. Good. I don't like Trump either. But guess what? What a jerk Trump is, hasn't killed as many people as Obama, man. Oh, remember the book Double Down? Obama's quoted in it, signing off on the drone strikes, killed over 4,000 innocent people. Quote, I'm really good at killing people.
I remember that.
That's America.
So it's a bleak picture where we stand right now. And, you know, the powers that be, they're not going to change, right? They're not going to change their course of action. So I would say that sticking with the status quo is just going to perpetuate what's going on. And in your opinion, how much longer is this going to continue? Are we just going to get ground into powder as a society and a culture? Or where do you see things going? Do you see any change? Do you see any viable resistance to resetting things?
No, I don't see any at all in this country. You know, I talk about Trump. Look at the money he gave to the rich cats, man. Lowering the corporate tax from 39 to 21%. That only helps the big people. Yeah. Look where all the money went with the tax breaks into stock buybacks. That's what's keeping the markets up. You got Apple. What did Apple stocks way down in the last couple of days? What did they buy? Over $100 billion worth of stocks this year from money that they stole, brought overseas. Oh, no, we didn't steal it. It's tax money that we don't want to pay. And you'll give us a deal so we don't have to pay. But you better pay every penny, man, because I'm going to get the IRS after you. You can't steal one dime, but as big cats, we can wash all the dough we want. So again, under Trump, you look at the Tax Policy Center, 86% of that, the tax cuts went to the 1%. So it's the same thing. No, there's no resistance in this country. That's what I'm trying to say. They have this great get out and vote movement going on that you got to go out and vote. I don't vote for murderers and thieves. That's as simple as I could say. But there's no resistance in this country at this point. But it does not take a majority to prevail but rather an irate, tireless minority, keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men and women. That's Samuel Adams. So that's what it's going to take, Chris. And right now, we don't have it. We don't have a movement that's moving it.
So that's a distressing scenario.
You tell me, show me it.
But I appreciate it, and I want to hear the truth, and I want to hear. And so I think that, we're, as you said, it doesn't take a majority. I think there's a tiny, tiny, tiny minority of people that get it, but it's so insignificant as far as their numbers. I don't think in our lifetimes it's gonna take root. I don't know. It could be wrong, but so onto something that's no understanding, and I understand that in the scenario we're looking at, there's very few things for the average person that they can do to protect their wealth and safeguard what little they have. And one thing we do on the show, because people want to know what ideas. You're a thinker, you're a thought leader. What can I do to safeguard what little I have, or whatever wealth I've accumulated? And there's lots of folks that do have a fair amount of money, but it's really being whittled and frittered away through real inflation and such. Are there any safe havens, or what are the few safe havens for investors that you see?
Well, first of all, on the economy, and I'll go into the safe havens. The only thing that's keeping the economy moving is low interest rates. Again, as I say, they didn't teach me negative and zero interest rate policy and quantitative easing in Economics 101 or graduate school. So they made this stuff up. The world can't take higher interest rates. We're looking at a global slowdown. We're looking at emerging market currencies down against new lows or hitting lows against the dollar. And because the interest rates are going up, the dollar's getting stronger, their currencies are getting weaker. You have a global slowdown. The numbers coming out from the European Union, China, one after another, with China's GDP just hit 2009 levels. You're looking at their investment in infrastructure. Direct investment is down to 1992 levels. Retail sales are down. Everything's down. We're talking the second largest economy in the world. And they don't want their currency, by the way, to devalue, because 80% of China's GDP is consumer based. We have 2/3 here. So the weaker their currency get, the more it costs to buy imports, and they import a lot of stuff. So we're looking at a global slowdown. And it's going to be really triggered by interest rates, oil, and earnings. Those are our three things. And now with the sanctions going on in Iran, oil's down over $10 from its high, Brent crude. But should oil spike because of what's going on in the Middle East, like to $100 a barrel, you're going to see a global market crash and global economy depression. Having said that, I don't give investment advice. If you watch our forecast in the Trends Journal and our Trends in the News broadcasts, I've been saying for the better part of the year, the bottom of gold is around $1,200. And it hit 1185, so we were right there. And we believe gold is at the bottom. Gold prices have to stabilize, obviously, above the 1,300 mark, but we don't believe gold is going to really spike until it hits $1,450 an ounce. That's our breakout point, which is not able to do in over 5 years now. So that's the breakout point for gold. To us, that's the ultimate safe haven. The mistakes that I've made in my life as a forecaster, I believed, for example, after the panic of '08, and by the way, I coined that term in 2007. I took the domain name out. I thought things would continue to crash. Again, I didn't know about zero interest rate policy, negative interest rates, and quantitative easing. Because tracking trends is an understanding of where we are, how we got here, to see where we're going. So we never got here before with negative, zero, and quantitative easing. So that's the mistake I made. I'm mentioning that because real estate. When this thing goes down again and real estate prices go down, the mistake that I've made in the past is that I could have bought really prime real estate like in New York City for almost nothing. And I didn't, because I thought things were going to go down and keep going down. So to really stay tuned and to see what the changes are happening, because in the long term, real estate has shown to pay off. And there'll be a definitely, there's a downturn already in real estate. They can't take 5% mortgage. You're looking at new mortgage applications, new home building, existing home sales, one after another, they're down. Southern California, you're looking at numbers down 22% across different aspects. Silicon Valley area, down. The amount of new homes going off the sale up like 100%. So that's California, and they're doing really well. So that what I'm saying is, but look how high the prices have gone. So to me, gold and real estate, those are two hard tangibles. And I've been buying gold, by the way, since 1978. So, you know, I've been in it a long time.
Well, I think, yeah, and I think they're a perfect complement to each other, right? One is very divisible and portable. The other, obviously, is completely the opposite. I believe, and, you know, not giving investment advice, but this is the time to kind of put the wealth in gold, let the collapse happen, come out the other end financially whole, and then you move into real estate. You know, key to real estate is buying at the right price. You buy it at the right price, it is probably the ultimate investment. So I would agree, you know, that's a good strategy. And the thing about precious metals, I don't know how you feel. You know, there's a lot of people who are right about precious metals, will be right in a big way. There are some people that say, well, they haven't really gone up as much as they should or been forecast. I also think if people really step back and look from when the secular bull market began in 2002, gold has still done quite well, even though the last year or so it's kind of in this tight channel, as you pointed out. And I think, you know, and you said it yourself, I believe, I won't put words in your mouth, you know, when you're in a tight trading range like this, eventually it breaks out. It could break to the upside or the down, but the fundamentals point to the up. And when it breaks out, they usually break out quite violently. And I don't know what your feeling is about, you know, timing. And I meant timing in this sense. It's our opinion that the physical precious metals market, from our work in it, is really there's not a lot of availability. And I think investors may make a mistake where they wait too long. They want that confirmation where they see the masses coming to the realization they need gold. But in our opinion, for the average investor, it won't be available to them at that time. You know, do you have any thoughts on that as far as, you know, the real availability of gold, the real supply, you know, and how readily available it would be in that true financial crisis that we see coming?
Oh, in a financial crisis, it'll be very rare and very expensive. And you know the numbers that just came out with the amount of gold that central banks have been buying over the last several months. You know, it's way up. And you know, from, I think, Kazakhstan to Russia to, you know, you name the country, you know, they're buying up more and more gold. Again, it's the ultimate safe haven asset. You know, gold, you know, life has its ups and downs. You know, one time in my career when I got blackballed, they used to be on Oprah, the Today Show, Good Morning, they used to be on everybody. And I said what would happen with the Afghan war, and that's when they started pulling me off for a long time. And I said, you know, if Alexander the Great couldn't pull it off, if the British couldn't do it, the Russians couldn't do it, what makes you think America's going to do it? It's going to be a war that never ends. We'll just be bogged down there. Of course, 17+ years later, here we are. And so they didn't want to hear that. I'm mentioning this because, you know, one time I had to borrow some dough. And what I did was I went to friends. And I said, listen, I'll give you this gold and loan me the money. And here's the deal. Let me pay it back in 3 years, 2 years. And if I can't pay it back in 2 years, you keep the gold. And if the price goes down, I'll pay you the difference. And these are friends. Yeah, sure. Friends aren't going to loan you money without any collateral.
Sure.
Gold was great collateral. I bought all the gold back. All my friends were so angry at me because the price skyrocketed, you know, and they would have made a lot of dough. But I'm saying I used it in my life, and that's a life experience. And so to me, gold is, I traded it as a young guy. And, you know, when I began trading it back in the late 70s, at a $5,000 bet, I was trading gold and oil. That's how I got into the trends business, by the way. It was during the era of Iran. Here we're talking about Iran today. It was when the Iranian Revolution happened, and Jimmy Carter, that's the liberals love him. That's the clown that deregulated the airline industry, and now we got the crap that we have now. There used to be 150 different companies. Now we have 2 that control just about everything. I'll never forget the guy, Alfred Kahn, the Kahn man. He was the guy, this arrogant little clown of a boy, I think from Cornell, that pushed through deregulation. Anyway, Carter comes back from spending New Year's Eve with the Shah and his wife. And, those days, the president get in front of the microphones, the helicopter behind him. And he announces to the American people that the Shah is the island of stability in the Middle East. And that's when I became a political atheist. I was the government affairs specialist for the chemical industry in DC back in the day. There's a picture of me and Ronald Reagan to my right over here. He was a keynote speaker of my group 2 days before he's announcing that he's running for president against Jerry Ford. I was with him an hour and a half, 30 years old at the time. Anyway, I said to myself, as everybody's hating Iran, and people not knowing, of course, the United States overthrew the democratically elected government of Mossadegh in 1953, along with the CIA and the MI6 of the UK. The numbers, the data came out, the reports in June of 2017, but they never made the American newspapers, how Winston Churchill, along with Kermit Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt's grandson or great-grandson, were behind this whole overthrow of the Shah. And Churchill saying we need their energy. We need Iran's energy. And Mossadegh, who was the democratically elected president, had the nerve to nationalize the Iranian oil and take it out of the hands of Anglo-Iranian, better known today as BP, and Standard Oil, better known today as ExxonMobil. Anyway, so the Americans we hate Iran. And all Iran's telling Americans, by the way, in that time, is get the hell out of here. We don't want you here anymore. And Carter refused to move the embassy out. So that's where they had that problem started. But anyway, I said, what will the implications of this be? And that's when I said gold and oil prices will go up. And this is in the 70s. Hardly anybody's trading gold. Anyway, I took a $5,000 bet and I parlayed it into almost $750,000. And that's when I quit my job and started the Trends Research Institute. But to make the story real, I lost most of it, kept trading, thinking that prices would only go up. I was a young guy, learning about the whole thing. So what I do now and what I've done in my life is I buy to hold. I don't buy to gamble. But that's the way I became a political atheist. Again, when Carter said that Shah's the island of stability in the Middle East, there's a saying we used to have in the Bronx, BS has its own sound. And that's all he was saying, man, a load of BS.
Absolutely. And it's funny you talk about, going back to what you said, how the economy's changed. Everything's consolidated to a handful of companies, right?
Yep.
You said the world of stationary stores became Staples, and all the local hardware stores became Home Depot and Lowe's. And when you talked about the airlines and the deregulation, I was an auditor in the 80s. When came out of college in the mid-'80s. I traveled every week. Boy, I remembered there was New York Air, Piedmont Aviation, TWA, Eastern Airlines. I mean, much more competitive, much better service. So again, consolidation and really a degradation of services.
And degradation of society, because when you own your own real estate, your own hardware store, your own stationery store, your own clothing store, and you worked for one of these airlines, you got benefits, you became a middle-class person. Now you're just a slave in Slavelandia working for the multinational plantations.
You're basically, you go into these stores, the people that work there are basically disinterested, right? They're disinterested. It's not like when you went into the local hardware store and you dealt with the owner, right? And he took pride in what he did. And he knew everything on every shelf. He knew how to help you. Totally different experience. Now, bringing something, and I'll kind of go back and to something that you're talking about recently in your research, and I think this could be a trigger to much bigger troubles coming our way, and that is, I think you've been talking about recently us trending toward a stage 1 recession. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what in your research is really setting off those, raising those red flags?
Again, it's interest rates. As I said, back in the day when Bill Clinton was running against Ross Perot and George Bush Sr., the campaign slogan inside the campaign, not for the public, but within the campaign circle, was "It's the economy, stupid." So keep focusing on talking about the economy. Today, it's interest rates, stupid. It's zero and negative interest rate policy that boosted the markets. End of story. And quantitative easing, cheap money. And now cheap money is drying up. And you're looking again when you go through the housing data. You're seeing again new mortgage applications, existing home sales, new home sales, one aspect after another. You're seeing major slowdowns. So that to us is the stage one. It can be reversed if they reverse interest rate policy. Look, over in Europe, they still have negative interest rates. Who the hell ever heard of negative interest rates? And they just came out last week and said, well, we may not raise them until maybe the summer of 2019. You got negative rates in Japan. And basically, with our rate over here, about 2.13, the overnight fund rate, that's below inflation. And when you put inflation really in, since they started raising this, it's below the inflation numbers. Yet society cannot take a 5% mortgage. And you're seeing the slowdown. So it depends on what happens with interest rates. So when we watch recessions happening in stages, we don't wait for, quote, the official word from the people that don't know what's going on to tell us we're in such, well, you need 2 quarters of negative GDP. Stop. It's just a stupid number you're making up. Take a look at society and see what's slowing down and what's building. And the building is slowing down. Oh, building stocks. Where are they? How deep in bear territory are they? When you look at it, they're probably on average down about 35%.
I think auto sales are way down too.
Auto sales are going down now. They're not way down, but they're down. And this is the scam going on. I'm glad you mentioned that. Last week, they came out with sales from General Motors. Volume was down, but they made money because less people bought cars, but they bought more expensive ones. Twitter stock went up, although less people are watching Twitter. And Facebook stock went up, although more people are signing off Facebook. Yeah, but our revenues are going up. Yeah, but your numbers are going down. That's only going to last for so long. But that's the scam that they're pushing forward. So yes, auto sales are another one. People can't afford them. And so you're losing the people that do have dough are buying the cars, but the others aren't. So that's how we're looking at the recession, different elements watching for slowdowns. Now, you just saw what happened with the new book coming out by Paul Volcker, who of course was the Fed chair under Reagan. And Volcker tells the story of how he was called to the White House, brought into the library. Reagan sat there, didn't say a word. And James Baker, the chief of staff, said to Volcker, you have orders from the president not to raise interest rates before election day. So what we're saying here is that the president has power over the Fed. And Trump is in the real estate business. Trump's greatest ambitions are money and power. Fame and fortune. That's the cat. He doesn't want to see his real estate go down. He's coming out against the Fed raising interest rates, which, by the way, was the total opposite of what he was saying over the years about how the low interest rates was ridiculous and how they should raise them. But now that he's in and things are where they are, he wants to see interest rates stay down.
You think he's going to get his way?
That's what we have to find out. What I'm saying is the president has the power, as evidenced by what Volcker said and other stories going back to the day with Lyndon Johnson and others. So yes, the Fed has the president has the power over the Fed. The Treasury Secretary could fire the Fed chair like that.
So this is it, and I would agree. It's going to be what the Fed does next. What course? Do they stick on this course of action of raising the rates, or even maintaining and crushing, what's left of the economy, or are they going to reverse course and just flood the money with, flood the world with more cheap money? So,
And the cheap money is only helping the very rich.
absolutely.
That's why you have the merger and acquisition activity. That's why you have the stock buybacks. It's only helping them. It's a war against the savers.
Which is just perpetuating the dysfunction that's been going on since 2008.
Yes.
So, yeah, and that's why it comes around, and that's why I see why your forecast for the intermediate term is kind of bleak, because it's either crushing everything with higher interest rates or going back to the same dysfunction, that we've gone through for the last 9 years. So, that's great insight. a little disturbing, but hey, it's the truth. I'd rather speak the truth with you, Gerald. Your publication is really excellent, and I'd like to wrap up by first thanking you again for coming on, but share with our audience, share with the people where they can learn more about you, the Institute, and how to get the Trends Journal, and really get enlightened. So let us know. Well,
the Trends Journal is trendsjournal.com, and it guaranteed, money back guaranteed. It's only $129 a year. And we used to be a quarterly up until this year, from 1991. Now it's a monthly. We put trend alerts out each week. We do Trends in the News broadcasts Monday through Thursday. And it's the only magazine where you're going to read history before it happens. I get a big kick out of there. New owner of Time Magazine. Oh, great. Last week's news tomorrow. The Trends Journal is the only magazine where you read tomorrow's news today. And the Trends Research Institute, we have other services, of course. We do consultations and other kinds of services for businesses and individuals. So you can go to trendsresearch.com or trendsjournal.com. You get to the same place. Well,
Gerald, thanks a lot for coming on. I hope we can have you again in the future, because this is an unfolding, the events unfolding are fascinating, and no one's better to have on to help us chronicle and make sense of what's going on than you. So again, thanks for coming on, and hopefully have you on again in the future.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all you do, Chris.
Thanks. Take care, Gerald.